Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table. I'm Paul Everton, the host. This is episode 87, and today we're going to have four men here who I would call men that express divine masculines. The masculines who will serve as leaders in the new earth are not the ones who have been chasing money, fame, power, or women. The true kings are the ones who have put in the time and effort to master their crafts and work through their karmic obligations. The mature masculine doesn't need approval from others, he validates himself. The divine masculine has no desire to be put on a pedestal. He is here to demonstrate divine love, protect the divine feminine, and serve others from the heart. And my first guest is Kirk Riese, who's been on here multiple times. And still we see no remedy, from all that he's been through. This poor man has been in exile for years. Here's a report here. Let me just pull this up. There we go. Canadian Rangers reports alleging theft of taxpayers' money ignored by relevant Canadian authorities and mental health weaponized calls for independent investigation. And this is why we have him on the show. But really, what we did really accomplish here is we revealed dark corners in our government, and I've done it with the nurses, the health departments, with the military with Selgovae Pecht, the police with Vincent Gerses, Ontario Provincial Police, the Rangers with Kirk Riese. So really, the truth table has been able to at least show everyone what's going on in the world, and not just in the world, but in Canada, in the government, in these different agencies that really are supposed to protect us, but have failed to do so. And what I've found in my research is that only the bad people are getting promoted. If you're willing to do something that's not, cool, might violate your own oaths, then you'll get promoted. You'll do very well. And Kirk wasn't willing to do that. He stuck to his oath, and he was punished for it. And you, welcome, Kirk. Welcome
How you doing?
again, my brother. My brother who has tried so hard to to get remedy and just right the wrongs. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a crime. He's not being a criminal here. He's trying to right the wrongs for you, for all of us, because if it can be corrected, then we'll have the agencies that we deserve, that will actually work for our benefits, for our health, for our safety. And we're not seeing this, are we, Kirk?
What's up? Oh no, we're not getting anything like completely silenced. Like it's like scary how silenced we are. Everybody like I get calls from all over the country from whistleblowers, and it's the same thing with them. Like no government official will help them. It's
Before this
you know,
started, though, you had a house, right?
I had in 2015. I posted on Facebook. I have everything I want now. Now I'm just gonna relax and just work for my kids. Like just for whatever. Like my house was paid for a long time ago, like in '99. Everything was good until everything shut down on me. But yeah, no. When they don't like you, they like people are talking now about digital currency and all this stuff, and at the press of a button, they can erase everything. Well, they did it to me since 2015. And there is no remedies there. There's no one in the government that will do what they're supposed to do because they know if they follow their job protocols, they'll lose their jobs. That's how messed up my story is. For example, CRA stole 350 grand. They assessed me as if I had 200 people working for me or something, when it was just basically myself most of the time. And when I went to dispute it, there's no one to talk to. They won't respond. I actually paid accountants like So far it's over $4,500, and they won't even get back to the accountants. So
And this
you know
is this is for
that's
fulfilling your duty.
well, yeah, like I
I mean,
I didn't
that,
do my taxes because I knew what was going on. Plus, I could get my T4s from the military, and I always
Mhm.
thought, you know what, the money will be there. It's the government, you know, they'll have good records, and you know, whatever else. Not the
Sorry,
case. Like they
I
said,
didn't
we
mean
have
to
no
laugh.
records. They have no records of you. You know, like even when I went to the bank when I started this 2019, they said, have you never had a bank account before? And I showed them my old bank card, and they put in the number. The screen went blank, and she said, "There you are." She says, "That's so weird." You know, same with when I got a driver's license. Have you never had a driver's license before? I was like all over Manitoba, even, you know, and gave them my driver's license number from Saskatchewan. She says, "Oh, that is really weird. You should get that looked into." I'm like, "Oh yeah," you know. But people thinking it's coming, it's here, and you know, I can prove it. It just to who? Like it's been 6 years now, Paul, of me screaming every day, thinking like it's every day, hoping the
Somebody
government
will
will do
do
the right
something.
thing.
Yeah,
And
like somebody, anybody, like one right person. Is
yep,
there no one?
like not yet. You know,
I mean, you were exposing fraud and corruption, and
yeah. Well, like I contacted every political party. What and those of them that didn't try to have me arrested, you know,
but just not just
no contact. What's that?
but it's not just the Rangers. It was in the First Nation reserves. It was right up to Trudeau himself. So I mean,
Well,
I can understand nobody would want to touch that, but still, locally in the Rangers, they should have been able to just deal with your
yeah.
complaints.
Well, here's the funny thing. You mentioned that because my sergeant major, he knew kind of what was going on, but when he finally got up there in December, I showed him a couple documents, and he's like, "Holy shit!" He says, "Okay, you're back in." You know, like I was suspended for a year in October, but he came up and he looked at some of my stuff, and he's okay, you're back in. He says, "You have to report this. Like you have to do it." Like, and I was like, "Yep." And I said, "But I didn't. I was worried that if I did, it would set the native population back 20 years because it's just so corrupt, and I didn't want to do that because 95% of the people my whole life have been native people, my friends, right? Still are actually, I hope. But you know, so I was just concerned about everything, and if they would have nipped it back then, they could have said it was a mistake. Instead, they doubled down, threatened my life. You know, think of your babies, think of your children. You stepped on too many toes. You know, and I said to
Honest,
him, hmm?
it's
I
it's
said,
heartbreaking for me.
yeah, I
It
said to
really.
him, I says, I'm thinking of everyone's kids. You know, he's thinking of your kids. I'm thinking of everyone's kids. You know, and
Mhm.
he was almost crying when I left him because he wasn't expecting that. And I said, by the way, I have all this evidence, and you know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
your loyalty to your country led to your own destruction.
yeah, and that's you
That's
know, and the thing
heartbreaking.
is, you know, I did swear an oath. They did
Yep.
illegally release me October 1st, 2019, without a meeting, not looking at any documents, not asking me why I left, nothing. They just, the same guy I accused signed my release and investigated himself. Like I made grievances, but he investigated himself for all these grievances. And it's just like the RCMP investigating themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, the military police, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I got a notice from the Military Police Complaints Commission that they're going to start investigating all these people from 2019. And
Hmm.
I phoned and left a message like, "Are you going to ask me any questions?" And then they phoned me back, and she says, "Well, we have enough documents now, you know."
Hmm.
But do they? I was like, "Are you going to ask me any questions?" Well, they might, you know. I'm like, how can they investigate something? And that's the thing. All the Independent Disclosure Office, they said they investigated without asking me any questions. Military police, not asking any questions. You know, I'm going to send them a couple of these interviews, but I don't know if they get them. You know, it's like they don't even get anything, and they don't confirm anything. It just, you know, and
Yeah.
I
So
hope they
yeah.
investigate, and that's why I'm trying to get drum up support because the more people that share my story, they'll be more likely to investigate it because it can't go away, right? but I get 2 or 3
Mm.
shares. That's about it. Yeah.
But you're embedded in the ethos of your training, and your obligation was to protect Canadian sovereignty.
It wasn't my
Particular.
training. Actually, they hired me like I was already trained. I was training them, but it was just the whole
Mm.
thing is, to your country. And I didn't want to be
Yeah.
a, I didn't want to be a, like a town fireman because I knew all the politics were bad there. So I said, this is giving back to the country and the community. I thought perfect. And my dad joined as well, like the next day. And
Yeah.
it was a good gig until I found out it was corrupt. And I actually got my best friend Jim Searson, his wife, the chief Tammy Cook Searson, and my son's godparents. I got them involved too, thinking it would be good for it, but it totally turned it right down. It became a political fundraising for him. Like it was just terrible. And she ended up being a liberal nominee. Thank God she lost. But
Mm.
Paul, just be honest with you. There's so many people dying in the wrong, like in the last 4 months. It's just you would not believe it, because they all got like $35,000 for this thousand plows, and it's just destroying a lot of people. And there's no law up there. It's just like everything is so corrupt. Nobody cares about human life anymore. It seems.
Oh, we have one of our guests left a comment.
Oh
Look
yeah,
forward to you joining the show, Dana.
yeah.
Dana Lee
Thanks.
Melfi, the Peace Man.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, for getting Dana on. Like him and I, we go back a bit. Never met each other. Sometimes we're friends, sometimes we're not. But we both have the same. We both want the same thing to happen. We want resolution.
Yeah.
We want to help people, and I believe he's all about helping people too. We
Yeah.
have different ways of going about it, but you know, he's got another story, and it just people don't listen to him either. And all it would take is one good government official to sit down with any one of
Hmm.
us whistleblowers, and we could solve all this. But not one person. I'm sure no one will with him either. Maybe, I can't speak for him, but in my case, I can't get any contact whatsoever. So
But you, it's the Rangers. With Dana, it's the Department of Justice.
yeah,
With Selgovae, it's the army. So
yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, my God, it's not. I mean, how did this happen?
Well, one guy started to do something wrong, and another guy saw him, and he didn't say anything. That's how it starts. And then they just
Mm.
keep going harder and harder, bigger and bigger. And then it's how Canada is now. Like at one point, someone said, "Kirk, just focus on the money." I'm like, the money's the least of my issues. Like it's it's the human rights violations, the fraud, like the threats, and it's the altruism of Canada. We usually help everybody, but not in my case. I get zero help, like except for a few people like yourself. And there are some people that have helped me. Don't get me wrong, but it just I thought my story would be done in a week, and I'd be back home. And that was 6 years ago, and still I can't get anyone serious. They all say it's above their pay grade. It's Kirk. It's way too big. Like, well, you know, how can we help? I said just press share, and I think everyone is
Yeah.
too scared in this country to press share. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think somehow they have clandestinely just infiltrated all the departments to protect themselves. Like Carney will not investigate election fraud.
yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure he
Well,
won't do that.
like I went to um, Georgina Jolaboo. She was the NDP MP for Churchill, Mississippi, in northern Saskatchewan. And, she actually responded to a few of my emails, and then she blocked me. And but I CC'd Trudeau and other parties in that same email, the RCMP. I was when I left, I was pretty much on the run for it was 9 months until they found me. But in that 9 months, I was talking to all of these agencies all over Canada, trying to get someone to do something, and
Hmm.
none of them did anything. And then I was arrested, and it was like they'd never heard of me, you know. So of course, and these doctors I've never met assessed me as 111% mentally disabled. I've never met these doctors uh, with they call it paranoid schizophrenia. So I'm not paranoid. I can with delusions. Like I have audio recordings of my delusions. People I play them on here, and people are like, "Holy shit! I can't believe you have those." But you think I can give them to anybody to listen to, or like not one document? They said we're not. I had my wife with me when I was in the tribunal in Vancouver, and I had my whole briefcase there. Like, just take this. No, we're not in the document looking business. I think they said, quote unquote. It was recorded, by the way. But if
Mm,
there's my delusions in my bag, if you pull them out, all of a sudden I'm not a paranoid schizophrenic anymore, and you guys have a serious issue to deal with. And none of these lawyers and doctors wanted to deal with that. Yeah, yeah. Hey, JD. JD's another good guy. Like, I'm not sure if you got him on. I think I might have, but he's going through the same thing in Prince Albert. Different scenarios, of course, but it's all the same corruption with his band and reprisal. And I get calls
mm.
all over the country from bands saying, "Keep going." And I'm not native, but my kids are. But they're just humans to me. They're not. They're Reese's. We're Canadian, right? But everybody likes to lump everybody into all these categories to start the infighting, and that's not
Yeah.
how it is in our family. So
Uh, I do want to thank all the people here commenting. Jay, Amanda Young, from Newfoundland, Sharon Rose, Sharon Rose. Yes, yeah. Thank you all for joining us, and we are trying to keep spreading the truth. It's just we're not getting remedy. We're not getting anyone that can do something about it. We're not having lawyers jumping on this and fighting for Kirk. You know what I mean? Like he would need good legal team because we're going up against Goliath
I don't
here.
I don't think so. I don't think I would need one lawyer and their lawyer and one judge, and it would never go. It would be done. My stuff will never get to court, but then there would be remedies. All of a sudden there would be they have to start following the law again themselves.
I have an
But
idea. Maybe we could get Janice to like sing.
sing, baby.
she
Well,
she she's more popular than the truth table.
she's way more popular than we are. I think she's got like I don't know 5,000 followers or something. But
Yeah.
no, it's funny
Holy
you mentioned that.
smokes.
But I have like a friend in the states. Her name's Catherine, and she shares my stuff all the time. And you know what she did today? She posted my "Let Kirk Reese Speak" on her Facebook picture or whatever. Like, Jesus, if anyone did that, like everyone's posting the ostriches. That's all it would take is someone to post. Kirk. Like if they can they'll promote everything except this, and that's the funny thing. I see these people that go from protest to protest are up there now, same thing all the time, you know. And it's what's good. What's going to be the next one? They're all saying they're going to come up to the ship at one time, but that that ship has sailed because I wouldn't want them here.
Yeah, like what about all these people that said they were going to support you but didn't?
Well, that's the
Like,
thing is like I trust everybody for
yeah, yeah, me too.
I help everybody I can, and I think karma loves me. Obviously, I got a beautiful wife now. I got my daughter here after 3 years, and I'm
Hmm.
still, my life in my mental life is a mess, but we're trying to keep it together. But it's just God loves us. I no way I could have gotten away like this far and accomplished this much because I had nothing, like no tools, or I had my tools and that was it. No money, but yeah, like I want to be done with this, give my evidence, and be legally released. And to do that, they have to take my evidence. And
Well, that's the other thing. You have evidence. I mean, this is a open and shut case right here.
it's well, that's what these accountants said. That Kirk, they'll never take this to court. It's way too embarrassing. I'll get my 350 grand back minus whatever the taxes I did owe, which I thought was around 40 or 60, but with interest. But they won't contact them either. Like it's just
Yeah. Well, we do have the peace man here.
yeah.
He is dark screen right now and swirling. So you're still loading. I'll bring you on as soon as you're done loading. But I appreciate you coming too. And there's another story right there. Um, I the truth table is not necessarily ending, but technically ending next week because the I don't want to complain about money, but it's $400. I just don't have it, and I've done it for a year and I've really said everything I needed to say. Kirk's been on multiple times and still I'm frustrated that nothing has been solved here. And hopefully it will get solved because I think, there's a lot of good people in Canada. I mean, almost everybody I meet are good people, except, the ones
Yeah, a few bad
uh, you
ones.
know, that borrow money and don't give it back or something.
Yeah.
There are some of those, but I mean, there's, every tree has a rotten apple, so there's nothing we can do about the rotten apples. It doesn't mean you cut down the tree, you know. And
What's
that's where I stand. I'm not going to give up being a good person, and neither is Kirk. We're going to remain who we are, and no one's going, no bad people are going to change us.
yeah. Well, that's the thing is like that's what a lot of oh,
Yeah, you're still good.
oh that's what
You're,
a lot of these people counselors like don't let them change you. I'm like I'm fine, just when are
mhm.
you guys gonna speak up? But
And Sharon, you're right. A lot of lawyers are in bed with money. Absolutely, 100%. They work for the crown. They don't necessarily work for us. Unless you have big, big money, are they willing to, uh, actually represent you?
yeah, and we don't, that's the thing is like all anyone has to do is give me a couple hours, and nothing's disputable.
Yeah,
Like I got video
yeah.
recordings, audio recordings of politicians, RCMP breaking the law. I've videotape of that, on like
Hmm.
and nothing. Like they won't investigate themselves. Like it, like if they're gonna let my case go, they're gonna let they're letting a lot of child problems go, women problems go. They're letting everything go until it suits them to charge people. And that's like do people trust the RCMP to send their kids there for help? Are they
Hmm.
going to go back and shoot the parents? Like everyone's worried about stuff like that because nothing ever never ever happens to anything that any people that do wrong. Like this John Wick, he's on Facebook. He's facing terrible problems. Stu Spruill, of course, David Drover. There's a whole bunch of us that have had all these problems, and Michael Jackson from Saskatchewan, but we get no support. Um, sorry, I got a bad cough, but and it just blows our mind. Like Sue's GoFundMe is like 15 or $160 or something. I started one just to show everybody nobody gives a shit, and I got $60, but I had to donate 10, and a guy named Paul donated the other 50. I was going to ask if it was you, but
Yeah, that.
but you go on
Oh,
X and Google, does Kirk Riese have a GoFundMe, and it says no, but I do. It just that's what being silenced is all about. Like they can erase everything. I'm surprised I'm still talking to you, but
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I have been hacked, and um, someone changed my passwords for my Google accounts
well,
like 11 days ago, and from Saudi Arabia. Well, is
hmm,
that scary or what? So I
yeah,
got back into my accounts, but still, how strange. So yeah,
yeah.
there's.
Well,
I think the louder your voice, the more they come after you.
oh, for sure, but it's just a lot of weirdness. Like when I got back from the hospital, the same police were still here. They all said, we're really happy to see you came back. What the fuck does that mean? Like, and the doctor was like, you're back. Like she was in shock because I had to be there at least 3 weeks and I was back within two. And I went to the hospital to check in for a follow up. And she just about, couldn't believe I was there. And she says, what, what happened? Like, what mental health plan are you on? I'm like, none. Well, what kind of medication are you on? I'm like, none. I says, everything I told you guys is true. And she just about dropped and she transferred out like real quick. And all the police transferred out real quick. Like every time I talk to the police, they all transfer out. It's embarrassing. Right. So
Hmm.
it's been like that for years. Yeah.
Yeah, and Shar, I hear you, Shar. This is a big comment. I might have to like shrink us a little, but yeah, I think you might be right with the 51st state thing. I mean, it's quite possible we're being played by all of them. I mean, I don't know anymore. I mean, there's just so much happening. I mean, everyone's hopeful that Trump will save the world, and of course, there's nothing wrong with saving the world. But being pro-Zionist kind of makes me worry. Bombing Yemen makes me worry. All these things matter. I mean, you can't be a Christian and be okay with the death penalty. It's just they're not compatible. You have to be consistent. If you're going to say you're a Christian, Donald Trump, you have to be a Christian. You have to not be for the death penalty, not bombing Gaza or Yemen or anywhere else. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, actions speak louder than words as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Peace Man, I think you're in. I'm not sure. No, I'll leave you there in case your mic is off, your camera's off, so we won't be able to see your shining, brilliant
Well, looks like he might be coming on there.
smile. Let's see here. I'll just leave him in there
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah. So,
You may
oops.
you may remember him like this. There's Dana right there. The Peace Man. And there's nothing wrong with peace. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, I wanted peace. I don't want to have a civil unrest. I don't want to have a civil war. And that's. But a lot of people, they're all pushing their agendas, not caring about us or anything, or me in particular, or anybody else that whistleblows. But they want to
Mhm.
push their agendas through, and how they're going to do it is they're just going to block anyone that stands in the way because he owns the media, owns the world, right? And I saw that guy that's pushing
Yeah.
for that big lawyer from Alberta that's pushing for separation. If anyone just talks back to me, I just block him. It feels great. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
real way to solve problems. I
Yeah.
dare anyone to come on a space and challenge me to for anything. I don't lie, so no one does. But I'll leave it alone at that.
Yeah. Well, I believe the Zionists control the media, and they also controlled, opposition. Like they'll control the Republican and the Democrat media in the state. So they have their hands in everything. They do it by banking. They started in 1900s in Russia and under the Bolsheviks, and then they merged with Hitler, the National Socialism, to Zionist, and they merged, becoming Nazi. NA is national, and then ZI is Zionism. So it is the Zionists. It's the Rothschilds. It's the banking. It's the money. They can silence anyone they want. They can buy anyone they want. They compromise. And the situation we have here that Kirk's talking about is just a result of the corruption just getting into everything, infiltrating everything.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of courage because once you know who you're up against, um, it's a little scary because that they don't care about life. They don't care about our lives, the life of children. They just want to control everything, and they will silence any dissent. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to be silent. I would rather die standing than surviving on my knees, because I'm not going to be on my knees. God didn't put us here to beg. God put us here to be strong. We have a beautiful country with a lot of beautiful people, and they deserve the best that this country can offer.
that's right. Yeah, like if we don't stand up now, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I'm not a
But
conspiracy theorist. I just deal with what I know personally. I don't know
yep,
anything about Africa or Israel, or
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know anything about religions. I just know be a good person, and that's how I
yep.
lived my whole life. My wife knows a lot of that, like the Bible and stuff. Me not. Well, yeah, you actually had a study with her there, but I don't have like. I just believe in being good, and
Yep.
apparently that's not a good thing to be. It's
But
you know.
that's a divine masculine. That's what I was talking about earlier. I posted about it because it's just such a beautiful thing to say. Masculines who will serve as leaders in the new earth. See, this is what's coming. The good people will shine in the end, and we're not chasing money, fame, power, or women. Of course, I can't really run very fast to actually catch a woman, but I am a smoker, so that does fight against COVID. And I don't smoke the Canadian brands because they put poison in them, like over 299 or something different toxins and poisons. They made it cause cancer, whereas the native tobacco doesn't put any chemical. They don't put any chemicals in it, which is why it's forbidden. You're not allowed to buy that. But that's because it has a curing agents in it. It's a holistic plant. You know, some people are just chewing like little like tobacco candies that you can buy where it's pure tobacco, and you'll see it's a remedy. It's a cure. It's insane how they've taken all the things that are good for us, like cholesterol is good for us, salt is good for us, and they demonized all the things that are actually good for us. So everything's being reversed. Like biblically, good is bad, light is dark, lying is honesty, war is peace. But they can't pull that wool over our eyes. We're not ones to be deceived by these things. We can see it though, and we can call it out, and that's the best that we can do.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah.
going
That
tobacco here. Right on, Jay.
I
That's the
see.
way to do it.
I see. Dana's not gonna. His Wi-Fi is not working for him. Sorry about that. There'll be another time.
Yep. Well, I don't know what's going the future holds for the show. I planned on one more show with the people that started the show with me and end it with them. I could have more shows. It won't be 1080 high definition, and I won't have as much time. But it doesn't mean the show is going to die. It's just a financial decision.
Paul,
I
you
don't
need a
have time.
break. You need to get on a
On a
ride to
boat.
Vancouver and then get your ass up here and take a couple
Oh
of
my
weeks
god.
off.
Bring the gu- and bring my guitar and sing along, sing with my
Yeah,
niece. I'll sing
you
for my
know,
supper.
yeah, but yeah, no, that's crazy times out there. And who'd have thought like me going in an exile here would have worked out in my favor? Now, like I had no idea things were going to get this bad out there, but
Mhm.
it's just I picked a good place, lots of food and water. The people are super awesome, 99% of them. But like, oops, I just hope this. I hope it doesn't come here. And that's the thing is like,
Yeah.
yeah, with no rule of law in Canada, who knows what's going to happen.
Welcome, Sandy. Nice to see you, my sister Sandy. I'm guessing Dawit is near you, and he's going to be on the show next week. So feel free to join him. You're both welcome for the big show. But it's been 5 years for you, Kirk,
No,
and
six.
not one 6 years now. Oh
Yep.
man, 6 years. And look what's happened in the last 6 years. Look what we went through, like the COVID panic, and now the WEF, or is it the WHO treaty, pandemic treaty, is signed, and now it's like force they can force vaccinate the world, and I'm sure they would love
Yeah.
to do that with their. They just want everyone to get that mRNA. That's what they want. They want that in the food. They're going to inject the pork and the meat to make sure everything has that mRNA. And there's only one reason, because it can control you. It can make you happy. They can make you happy, which they're admitting. Happy and own nothing by 2030. That's the goal. The mRNA is a part of that because it's a technology, a military grade technology created by DARPA and the Department of Defense. And they can spray it from the sky. They call it spray vax. And so I don't think there's any way that we're going to be able to not be infected with these things. Um, there's no way out. If they're spraying it from the air, then it's going to contaminate all the animals and all the all the wildlife, the fish, even in the oceans and the lakes. They're just gonna because they can make us happy and own nothing. So if they can
Well,
make you happy, they're admitting that they can, cause an
make it
emotional
pretty miserable
reaction.
too.
If they could, yeah, they can make you miserable. They can make you violent. They can make you angry. They can make a whole town go bananas. If you ever watch the church scene in what was that? The Kingsman, the church fight scene, which is very
Oh yeah.
graphic. It shows they use a signal through the phones, and it affected everyone. So they're kind of showing us what their plan is through that movie. And a lot of people don't realize that, but I've noticed a lot of people that have taken the thing are a little bit different. They seem colder. They seem, not the same as they were.
Oh, for sure. I've noticed that too. Yeah. I
Hmm.
actually, there's a guy living with us at one time, an elder guy, and he totally changed his whole personality. He lost his balance, and we're actually taking. He got medevaced out twice, I think it was, and I was taking him to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, he's like, "Kirk, you may as well get your, you know what?" I'm like, "No friggin' way, man!" Like, but
Ooh.
I don't know. I just, like I say, I just focus on the stuff I can prove. I didn't get into that, but I do believe it wouldn't have happened the way it did if my story would have got out in 2019. A lot of people would have been in prison. The governments would have been more held accountable. And to this day, if my story gets out now, maybe that could help again. Like during that whole convoy, everyone knew my story and they weren't saying a damn word. Why is that? And you look at most of the convoy people, like 99% of them have never heard my story, and you'll never see any of them share my story, which is very weird,
You
of all
gotta
the
wonder.
leadership.
Yeah, you gotta wonder why. And Sharon
Yeah.
makes some really great points. No matter how honest you are, no matter how much evidence you have, no matter how clearly you stand for what is right, the judicial system turns its back on the truth and protects power, not people. Whistleblowers are punished, victims are silenced, and the corrupt walk free, shielded by bureaucracy,
Yeah,
privilege, and politics. Yeah, you
exactly. Like
nailed.
she came to our ship with her husband Elliot, and I thought they were going to be able to break this story out, but nothing. And that's the thing is, I think it
Hmm.
scares a lot of people, and the right people. If people think that the CBC and the CTV and APTN is the mainstream media, it's a lot more than that. So there's a lot of private podcasters that have, tried to discredit me, and I've never talked to them. And I get messages from people saying, "No, they're telling us not to get you on our show, but makes us want to get you on our show. And those are the good ones, like yourself, Jesse Helen. You know, uh, you've had me on like 5 times. Each of you, Bob Bleone, when he used to do the podcast, he'd had me on 5 times. And I was on with Arthur Pulowski. I thought for sure he would share my story. Not a peep, you know. And that's what he said, Kirk. Yeah, when Mocha does his documentary on you, I'll share it. But when people share Kirk Riese, it pops up as a notice and stuff. But I've never got anything like that. Then I see I'm blocked by him. So it just like that's what
Wow.
people. That's how they solve problems. Is it might be true. It doesn't matter. We're gonna block him, and we're gonna tell all our friends to block him too, and then they win.
You're the Canadian Julian Assange.
He's still alive. I hope.
That poor man. But he both basically showed what we're seeing
See, but
in
and
Canada.
then yeah, look what happened to him. Look what happened to shit, I can't remember. He was an RCMP and he got charged for being like a spy or something like that. Or Ortis, like who knows if they're good people or bad. I think probably they were good people and they were targeted just like me, you know.
Mm.
And but that's the thing. If no one, we don't. A lot of people still trust the media. A lot of people still worship politicians or celebrities. Where I've never done that, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, they do.
that's
100%.
yeah, and like Chris Barber, he said he's going to share my story a long time ago, and he never has. Then he started getting belligerent, so I got belligerent back, and then he just tells everybody, Kirk's, what do they call it? What did he say? I'm an idiot seeking attention. I am seeking attention, but I was really smart, like top of the food chain back when I was working. But maybe I think I still might be. But
Hi, Nicholas. Nice to see you, brother.
yeah, I was just
My
trying to read that. Yeah,
name's
no, it's just people, if they could focus on one story that could go to the end, like they're not going to find anything bad on me. They can't charge me with anything. I don't. They're not going to like entrap me in anything. I'm in the middle of a ship in the middle of nowhere. I can't get into much trouble here. And
hmm
but that's the thing. If they would have found anything that they could use against me, they would have 6 years ago. And that's the thing is like, nope, we can't. We have nothing on that guy. We're going to just have the silent treatment, and that's part of the art of war is the silent treatment, right? And it's been 6 years, no contact for hardly any of the military. And there's unfortunately, like if they do that grievance and stuff, because I have all the evidence, they will just blow them away, and people are getting harmed. Like people are still dying. It's just it's just terrible. You look up ranges, we have the highest mortality rate in the Canadian military, and we don't go out of country. It's all accidents. Yeah, a lot, and ODs, suicides. Imagine that. Just like most of the military. So I don't know. It just people can't live in fear either. That's for sure. I get people like a lot of women call me about not getting any help for stuff that happened to them, and I'm like, just never give up. And I think I think sharing your story will help other women, and that's the thing. Maybe my story will stop this, and people don't think of that. No, we're not. We're going to hide Kirk's story because we don't want it to stop, even if it is true. I don't know why people think like that.
money.
I guess so. Yeah.
People love money. See, I,
Well,
I don't care about money. I really don't. I don't think you do either. I mean,
no.
you
Well,
have to have money to survive, of course, but I think we're the same that way. I mean, that's why the truth table is going to kind of end. Just the quality of the screen, my logo. I will probably do shows in the future, but I mean, basically, it could end. I don't know. I have said everything I wanted to say. I've talked about all the whistleblowers and the healthcare, military, police, um, nurses injured by the thing, and that's
yeah.
not
You had.
something I can just be quiet about. People
Yeah,
are being hurt.
yeah, you had T-Bird on here, Tanya, and
Yeah.
Sarah Kajunin, and
hmm
Jesse Hell. He get you guys get everyone I try to get you to get on. You guys get on. It's just you're so helpful. It just blows my mind that you guys aren't celebrities and funded because you tell the truth. And some of the stories are a little out there. I know that, but I'm sure my story sounds really out there to some people. I heard another military guy just yesterday, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's way out there. And I'm like, that's how I sound to everybody, you know.
So
But
Dottie posted your story and got a 30-day ban.
yeah, well, seeing that Shadow Davis when Mocha, I forgot I had a recording device here when Mocha was walking down. It was his when we were doing our interview, and Shadow Davis called me when I was doing it. Recorded the whole conversation. Who have you told? You know, how many people? I said Judy Raybald, 50 politicians, 100 politician or police. Like this is just in the first 3 minutes of it. That's who I was, and I contacted him, and it took him 6 months to contact me back. And he says, "Kirk, I got enough problems." I'm like, well, fuck, I think I got bigger ones. But that's the thing is, if people don't remind somebody of the stories that aren't over yet, like I'm still in exile. They still have my bank accounts. These people are still dying. My house goes up for auction in a couple of weeks. It was paid for in 1999, and I built a $200,000 shop. So they're basically stealing my house. That's probably the property and shops and houses probably close to 600,000. They're getting it for $45,000 in taxes, and $15,000 of those taxes were for them. They charged me to clean up my yard, like with heavy equipment or something. I don't know what they did, but they were trying to get me to gift it to the town before that, and I was making payments on it. And then one of the guys that was supposed to rent the shop, he never paid it, I guess. But I didn't know that, so I got in a warning. Then the next thing, it's gone. And nothing I can do about it. They said, no, they're not going to accept the payment plan because they just added $15,000 to the bill. all the meanwhile, it's the most valuable property in town, right beside the hospital, and you can build apartment buildings on there. And there's already a brand new shop there. Like, well, it's 7 years old now, but that's what they do. I said, well, I pay the taxes. Just give me back that 350 grand, and I happily pay the taxes, But when you're making $1,200 a month on military disability, you don't really have much extra, And there's a lot of men and women like that in this country, elderly people, you know. I don't know. It's scary stuff, and that's why I got so lucky. You know, I phoned an ex girlfriend of mine. She was in charge of the child welfare here for Western BC, and she invited us here, and we stayed. She left, but I couldn't live anywhere else. You know, I can't work because this stresses me out a lot. I'm like, it's just like knowing a collapse is coming, and you're screaming and no one's listening. It's like a bad nightmare. And
Well, like Marnie said, do you think they got to Shadow?
oh, 100%, yeah. Because then he turned me, like, I got DMs and stuff, and he turned on me. Yeah, like, what do you want us to do? We did one show. And he asked me at the end of that show, Kirk, how can we help you? And everyone says send money. Well, yeah, that would help a bit. But I said, when you're on your show in a couple of days with Chris Barber, just share my story again. Like, just who is, or let Kirk Riese speak. And you think they would do that? No, they did not. Like, that's all it would take. Just let Kirk Riese speak. My phone number's there. Like, I get phone calls, but it's only from whistleblowers and people with terrible stories. Like, no one's calling to help. Oh no, sorry, a few people have. Barb, and sorry, my mind's drawing a blank. But there has been like 3 or 4 people that have helped a lot. Joanne, she always shares all my stories and stuff. And every time I get so little shares, I can thank everybody. So it's just I really appreciate it. But everyone's like that. Like, you look at Michael Jackson from Saskatchewan, the guy that stopped the shots. Yeah. He went to prison for a year. Nobody cares about his story, and he's going to court like right away. And he can't afford the lawyer. So this precedenting case might get lost because no one supports him. All these big budget, I'm going to name names like Marty up north, who attacks people like me, attacks him too. Instead of sharing him, they attack him and they try to discredit him. And it's a freaking important case. He hasn't seen his daughter for over 3 years. Yeah, he's still trying to fight it. Like, it's for Canada. People don't realize it's not my story. It's not his story. We could be the biggest assholes on the planet, but our stories are that important. Just say it without me, put someone else's picture on it. That's fine. Same with him. He's a great guy, Yeah.
Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble for doing a show with Michael Jackson. I got strikes and everything on on my YouTube. I just killed that account.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, like, you look at why my ex was erased. It was because of my controversial topic and because I accused the people, and all they have to do is say it's spam, and then you're gone. They can erase, like it says right there. It's because of, but all my stuff I usually post is just my stuff, and it's all true, and I can prove it. I've never been fact checked. None of these guys that blocked me, the Chris Barbers, Pastor Archer, Marty up north, none of them have ever even tried to talk to me decently. It's just the Chris Scotts call me. They're all lunatics and whatever, man. Like, I'm living in a friggin' ship in paradise, and I'm a lunatic. I think I got some issues, but trying to save Canada makes me a lunatic. That's the thing. The Patriots will be the lunatics first, and just.
I think that's a benefit of coming on this show is because we're having a conversation. You can see clearly. Everyone can see clearly that you're not insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, well, the doctors I've met, like the doctors that assess me, I've never met. And that's the thing. Hey, how you doing? But one of in the first meeting with the doctor, at the end of it, he says Kirk just has to get his documents to the proper authorities, hopefully within a 2-week period, and that was March of 2019. And I slide my briefcase forward, and they slide it back every time. They all say it's above their pay grade. But yeah, good to see you again. Thanks, Paul.
Selgovae, brother. Yes, I'm glad to have you back here. You're on mute, of course. So I'll have to use my lip reading skills. Welcome back. It's nice to have you back on my
Yeah,
second last show.
Thanks for having me.
So, is any of you guys plan on going see the throne speech by the King Charles of the UK?
No, it's not on my to-do list.
Just checking. Nicholas is watching. Are you in Ottawa right now? Is anybody in Ottawa in our audience? There he is, Nicholas. Good, you're still here. RCMP whistleblower Don. Yes, Don Matheson. Yep, I have him on one of my shows. I think I have talked to him, and he's been on uh, one of my shows. I think I just live streamed his live stream kind of thing. But yeah, he was definitely another one. He has all the evidence, like Kirk, and Selgovae is showing us what's happening in the courtrooms. So we know we don't have representation if the flag isn't in a position, in the proper position, etiquette. What do you call it? Not etiquette, but what is it, Selgovae? You know what I mean.
Sorry, I was reading JD's comment there. So the flag's been removed in the symbol of impartiality and representation of the Constitution, and all that it's written under has been removed. And if the representation isn't present inside the body of the theater of representation, it has no binding obligation upon the judiciary present. So I had sentencing last week, well, 2 weeks ago, almost 10 days ago, on the 13th, and it went pretty much as I predicted it would. So I was convicted. We tried a couple of reopenings based because on the fact that, as I said in previous shows, about how the judge is in fact the father of the director of my work group at Bruce Power nuclear plant, and is in the line of fire of a human rights complaint that I launched in 2020. So, and it's an investigation phase. It's before the commissioner now, so we're waiting to see how that proceeds. But at the end of the day, yeah, it is a reprisal attack. So I've already explained about the searches at the courts, the missing flag and stuff, and I can go over that later. But what I want to talk about the fresh stuff that I just learned, because in the beginning of this process, for the first 3 years, I argued from a position of self-presentation, and I took a standing within our law under the Interpretation Act of Canada, Section 8.1, common law exists, and so I spoke to that, and I was denied all mustering to it, and I was confused because of my knowledge of things. So when I noticed the flag wasn't there, that was the first bone I started to chew on. And then I realized that in 2015, they just started this search at the front doors of the courthouse, which removes your presumption of innocence and instantly limits you and establishes half of the mens rea for a conviction going in. And all these other things that all started happening since 2015. The repeal of 296.1 of the Criminal Code, which removed the binding obligations, so help me God, to any oath. So you removed the blasphemy libel, which was indictable for 2 years, and the only reason it existed was because of the binding it had upon state agents when they took an oath. Anybody would interact with your liberty. Security guards at a mall and stuff like that don't take an oath. They can't put hands on you. They are only supposed to observe, and they're only authorized to interact in an event like any other citizen would be, in order to prevent harm or loss of life. Harm to somebody or a loss of life. So they can physically interact with an individual then, but other than that, they're not supposed to. Yet it's happening, and they're handing them over to the police, and then the police, of course, continue it. So police officers don't know their oath. It was written inside their notebooks. All they have to do is open it up and read it. They won't affirm it to you because they don't want to acknowledge the constitutional binding authority upon them, and the judge won't either. So now that preamble's done, first time ever, I have to go past the bar in the courtroom and sit in the witness box because I'm under representation. And now I play by the rules. It's their rules. So I sit down in the box. I look. I'm about to get sworn in, and I'm picking the book I'm going to swear on because I didn't bring mine this time. There's a stack of faith books. There's the Quran, the New Times Testament, the King James Version, and another one too. All of them just stacked one on top of another there to access. And on the table underneath the microphone is another Bible wrapped in a plastic evidence bag, a clear plastic police type evidence bag.
How awesome.
And so I'm being rushed by the judge, and he's like, "Okay, so Mr. Walker, you're gonna sit." And I don't like being called Mister, so that started dog. So then I just grabbed at the top. I saw the King James Version. I grabbed it. I picked it up. I held it with both hands, and I took an oath. But first, I wanted to flip through it and make sure there was contents that I wanted to ensure at least were there when I took an oath to it. So I quickly skimmed through to Job 32:21, and then he's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm just confirming that everything's in order here." And I quickly closed it once I saw that, and I took my oath. I put it down. Now, at this point, my observer, friend of mine, sitting and watching all this, and I look at the one in the bag again, because now I'm having thoughts in my head. There's just something in my mind saying, you did that too quick. You were rushed. Why didn't you look around before you took that step? And I looked at the bag, and then I looked at it again. And I looked at the side and the spine of it, and I see KIV. Not KJV, KIV. Now, if you know the difference between classical Latin and Pig Latin, this will be interesting. You see, Pig Latin uses the letter J. Classical Latin doesn't. Classical Latin existed before Pig Latin. I can get into the story about that, and I will later if you want, but I might offend people why it's called that. But it is what it is. It circles around the name Jesus. And so J is an I in reality. Before the vowel shift, it's an I. So there's one version of the King James Bible edition done before 1611 in King James's life. It's called Ye Old King Iam's Bible. So I found that interesting. Just it kind of connected in my mind that one needed to be in a plastic bag. Now, if I would have asked in the moment, they would have said, well, it's because of COVID. Okay, so what's with the discrimination? Why are these ones impervious to your COVID worries? The Bible of any faith book is considered a living thing. It's considered living. And if you smother it, you kill it. If you isolate it, you contain it, you put it in a box, you seal it. This is highly symbolic. When a baby gets their first Bible, those people who follow that old tradition closely will remember it comes in a fragrant cedar box. You can smell the cedar. It's Lebanese cedar, and it's beautiful smelling. And inside, you open it inside, there's the Bible. And this is allegorical connection to the story of Osiris, Set, and Horus.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When Horus finds himself locked up inside a cedar log. And all of this has very, very powerful symbolic meaning in establishing a standing in a jurisdiction. You can't claim a control unless you have a tether to the origin. You have to have a tether to truth in order to make sense. So they've taken that and they sealed it. So, all right, what makes it beyond a coincidence? So in a family law matter in 2023, I had to go and speak to the clerks, and I had to make an attestation and swear to it. So they provided a Bible in a fucking bag there as well. And I remember saying to them then, why is it in a bag? They said, oh, COVID protocol. And I'm like, you wash this bag every time somebody touches it? Of course they don't, right? They just looked at me, and I was like, this doesn't make sense now. I remember telling her this feels satanic when I handed it to her, back to her. Well, I guess fast forward, I'm sitting in the stand, and I'm looking at the spine of this Bible, and the hamster in my head is now running pretty heavy. The judge is now, the biased judge, his name is Kevin Sherwood. He's now sort of directing my lawyer to proceed. We're taking up the court's time. I didn't have my eyes on him. I simply complied and put it down. I'm in a sentencing hearing. What am I going to really kind of like, what dynamic, dramatic out of all the drama in this whole trial am I going to pull at this point? I put it down. I just keep thinking about it. And then my lawyer starts asking me questions. I kept thinking about it afterwards. At the end of the trial, it was a 12-hour trial, sentencing hearing. At the end of it, I'm on my way home and grateful to be. And I just start thinking about that thing about the Bible and all of that. And it's discrimination. They have taken a supremacy that they're bound to recognize and be under, and they sealed it. And not any other one. There's no eagle feathers stuffed in a lunch bag, sitting there in a stack of faith books in order to take an oath to. The flag was in opposing position. They reversed it. The flag now, probably because they've been monitoring me, and I'm bitching and moaning about the flag. So they brought it, and it's now on the right-hand side of the judge with the Ontario flag in the position of honor. Arguments that I make. There was arguments. I still made my cursory arguments at the search and questioned them why, and it got kind of funny. I sent you a video actually of one of them where it was they put the special constable in front of me with her little Garrett wand. It's bladed shaped like a cricket bat. They want to get a voluntary consent from you. So it's beyond the point of just saying we need to search. They need you to make an act that's voluntary to a request they make to seal the deal. So they'll say, please raise your hands, please turn around. You don't need to do that. They walk around you. If they wanted to search you, if you were under arrest, they would literally just roll your body around and reef through your pockets. Suddenly
it's like you're submitting, right? You're submitting to them.
You're consenting. They'll say thank you at the end of it, and you'll say, oh, no problem. And of course, that just fucking it's all on body cam.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone asked who you were. Selgovae is Canadian Armed Forces. He's been on my show multiple times. He's a Webster Dictionary kind of. He's got a lot of information that's important and empowering to Canadians. The things that we might not notice, like the position of the flag, and and it actually matters, and they can subtly move the flag to make it. And JD asks about First Nations and the feather. Well, the feather represents the thunderbird that, brings your prayers to the Creator, because they can fly very high, and the feather is just a respect and a representation of the thunderbird. They use eagle, who also soars very fly, but I think that's part, like we say, miigwech at the end of a prayer, which just means thank you. It's Ojibwe for thank you, and I hope that helps.
The feather.
Sorry, back to Selgovae.
The feather is also interesting. So there's the interpretation we have of Aboriginal or First Nations Native people's interpretation of it, and it's absolutely they own that. I'm not questioning that. I want to draw some interesting parallels to people to consider. The first diction in text, oldest text that we have that's written characters, is from Sumeria and Akkad.
Yes.
In their legends, they have a storm bird known as Anzu. And Anzu stole the tablets of knowledge. They were clay tablets. I'm going to suggest those little handbags are actually clay tablets with a handle on them that they carry around. There's an Etruscan bronze copy of one from the 5th century. Anyhow, and they're cipher codes. They're like little Rosetta Stones. The Anzu bird stole them all in the legend. The Anzu bird stole them all, took them to the mountain, and Ninurta went up and fought and recovered some of the tablets, and all the tablets were lost. So that's a very, very, veneer. Look it up, the story, Anzu bird, storm bird. Shortly after this story, another story about this other bird, an ibis named Thoth, shows up, writing God, who names Narmer or Menes, the first named Egyptian pharaoh. And you have Quetzalcoatl of South America, the feathered serpent. You have the storm bird of the people of North America. So the writing quill, the eagle feather, the writing quill, I suggest there's a connection which goes to a jurisdiction, which is how it's etched. It's also a timestamp to when things were etched, because before the quill was the reed. The reed was first. And the very first vowel, L, was an 8-pointed, a crisscross, one laid over top of another, makes an 8-pointed star. You call it an asterisk, sort of, I guess. And that is a notation of supremacy in diction, and it's because it's the first vowel. So KIV, VJ, KJV. If you, the J has the hook has no power unless it's tethered to the fucking truth, which is the original vowel. Jesus. If J's an I-E-S-E-U-S in classical Latin is the name of Jesus, Iesous. And that means I, which is the individual. The E in the root Hebrew is the hey. It's known as the hey symbol, and it means the, behold. And sus in Latin is pig. Sui, susui, I the pig. Classic Latin versus pig Latin. And if you invoke incorrectly, your expression of your will, your soul, which comes out through your acts and words, you're measured by that, and then you're considered either in a limited capacity of title or in an enlightened state of human, because only humans can enjoy human rights.
Oh yeah, I feel that resonates with me 100%.
So the word gender, which was invented in the 1950s, gen means natural. Der, the suffix, takes the natural and makes it an agent noun in title. Job 32:21, let no flattering title be put upon man's person, recognize the supremacy of God and rule of law. So when you take the word gender, which in 2018, same year they repealed 296.1, they removed sex from all government forms for your identity, and identity claims define capacity. They're not recognizing your inherent capacity anymore. They refuse to. The only way that you can keep a link to that in a form that says what's your gender is you go to the transgender box and you check it. And they say your pronoun, you put I. Transgender, trans means outside, opposing, and beyond. Gender is an agent. And so when these people are saying, I'm transgender, I want my human rights, they're fuck me, man. They're actually doing it correctly. And you're taught to be offended by the way they dress the truth.
Exactly. Isn't that and King James, I mean, he had his mother killed. Mary Queen of Scots was his mother, and he colluded with the Queen of England, who, we know the king is coming here. So the Queen of England, along with King James, killed his mother, who was a very religious. If you ever watch the movie Queen of Scots, you find out more about her. I think they have a new series about her called The Reign or something. But yeah, he killed his mother, so he's not a good guy. And he basically dictated the King James.
The Protestant reform that he ushered in was a separation from the Catholic Church, which they wanted to do. And at the same time, up in Scotland, where he was being hidden, where his mother was from, they still had echoes of the tribe of Dan, the healers and all that. That's who got smeared as witches. They had to sever the faith of the people to that and into the new reform at the same time. It was a double schism. They were running two schisms at once on two what you would consider civilized people of the time and uncivilized people of the time. Like they have civilized First Nations and uncivilized First Nations, treated versus non-treated First Nations, etc. So it's all under a word. So bringing that back to the transgender thing in the present moment right now, how they have. So look at the other examples. The rainbow. Okay, it's a 6-spectrum rainbow, and I acknowledge that. But the point is the symbolism creates an internal when you see it now, and it's a covenant with God. Yeah. So they've taken a like image, put vanity and pride on top of it as a sin, and now they got you hating it. and you're at the same. That's witchcraft. That is fucking spell
Yes.
work,
Yeah.
creating new
Yeah.
perceptions through dictional and schisms that flip reality in people's minds and perceptions. We just had an entire youth that were at age 5 at the beginning of COVID and age 11 at the other end of it. All of that human social interaction was like minimalized and under maximum control. Do this, don't do that, through the whole thing. So
Yeah.
these children have been programmed now to jump when told to jump, and by authority, and not question nothing. They're going to be in charge of you in an old folks home. And when your bill runs out, there'll be no moral questioning. It's going to be, come on, Paul. Yeah, look at your birds at the bird feeder. Say goodbye. And you do your last goal and roll down the hallway, and you go out the other end in a van. Because we've been reduced to that. We don't value each other like human life is fucking cheap to people now. We've been so siloed, individually worried about our own selves. My house right now has become a rotation for people that are having their power cut off. You know, my one neighbor is coming with her young children over, you know, every other night to bathe them and cook a meal for them. So people are in hard times right now, and they just don't. We're not looking. We got tent villages. People drive by them every day, full of generational Canadians, full of generational Canadians. And then I go to a drive-through Tim Hortons, and the person on the other end can't even understand the words I'm speaking.
So I had my instinct was to look at the original Hebrew, and this is it here. But right
yeah.
Right here, this word right there, Ruach, Elohim, like Ruach of Elohim, and I'll show you what they took away here. Where is it? Ruach is a feminine noun, also known as the goddess of wisdom, the queen of heaven. In the Sumerian tablets, it was a woman who said that made us in their image. And they've removed this woman from the Bible, but in the Hebrew, it's still there. It's, you know, they can't take it away there. But King James deleted it, and all the other ones are Talmud, and they all call her spirit. They call her the spirit of God, hovered over the waters. You know, they did not want a female. And I will not sit down and shut up about it, because I think that's the most exciting thing I ever found in the Bible, was that they hid a woman of power too. In the Sumerian tablets, she was like the head scientist. But in the Sumerian tablets is much more believable, because they showed errors, that the legs were too short and the arms were too long, and they had to keep, you know, fiddling with the genetics to get it just right. So that, to me, admitting flaws is believable to me, and where the Bible does not admit to any flaws. But they erased a goddess. So it's not just the sons of God had sex with the daughters of men. It was gods and goddesses. They were female and male. And Elohim is a plural that includes females, just like mankind includes females. Man is just one man, but mankind includes the women and the children. So
what's an
I know
entity?
that's another topic. I had a show on it. It'll be available on my Patreon, because I just think they're gonna. The first thing to go in a dictatorship is the truth. So I expect to be erased.
I think heaven really is just was originally just a cod, a walled-in civilization that was living high on the hog, had a system of order and unity, an expression that was agreed amongst all, and an order within it. There's a stone stele somewhere with their codex on it of how to live and how not to live. Outside of that was a wilderness.
Yeah.
And there was elements of the wilderness that weren't within the walled of the cod, and there was elements that people from Akkad coveted and people from the wilderness covered clearly from Akkad. And when these blended, and they did, when Enhead Wana, when you talk about the goddess that they worship, so like it's written that Enhead Wana first worshipped Inanna, and after she was exiled from Akkad by her father to Ur, She became frustrated and then began to worship another deity known as Ishtar, which is the star.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now we get back to that double cross. So that comes
Mhm.
into the picture at that point where man turns to stone. So Genesis 2:7 says that God took the dust of the clay, the dust of the land, made clay and breathed air into it from his nostrils and created man.
Right.
If you take clay and you take a reed stylus and you just punch an image into it and say, that's man, that represents me, and everybody agrees, so everybody does that the same way, you now have man turned to stone.
And see, my finding is
And his
that
word can travel time. His
yeah,
word can travel time if not misinterpreted or messed with, which I think is what we've been guilty of for a long time.
see the first word too is mistranslated because they say in the beginning, and it's not in the beginning, it's before. Right here. This is my actual translation.
Mm-hmm.
Before Elohim fashioned the firmament. So what this does
Yeah,
is
the
this
firmament.
says we breathe water like in our mother's womb. That's how we originally were before we were changed. We lived in water. We breathed water like fish, but more like mermaids. I guess I don't know what we look like. Only they could tell us what we look like. But my conclusion is we were water breathers and they turned us into air breathers. They put us in this prison and separated us from God's living water.
What's water though? Water's mem, and mem is,
Well,
is
yep.
the root of memory. Water
Hmm.
has like memory, your origins, your ability to think back to the beginning. So when it says that we're like a fish out of water, we're a Christian removed from our memory. So the
Yeah.
firmament, we've been taken out of one firmament and thrown into another one. What is the firmament? It's addiction. It's a matrix of expression to which others understand a common logic and the common sense, which has a morality attached to it. A moral code is imbued within it. You will feel certain ways when certain things are said. They will stimulate responses of emotion from you.
Yep. Here's my translation: Shanaim, which is the firmament, translates as dome, steel vault, and firmament. I went one word by one word by one word. It was the only way to put this together is
Mm-hmm.
to do it word by word.
So light means box as well. The Hebrew origin of the word light means box. So now that's a firmament, that's a dome. And
Mm-hmm.
to be enlightened is to radiate within that matrix,
Yep.
is to be able to navigate within that space of understanding. Because you're standing under the firmament. So you're within understanding.
I am not going to post that, Brian.
What do you say?
It's so funny. No, don't even look. It's good. It's good to have a sense of humor because laughter is very important too. Um, yeah, the translation, the words are so important. Like Selgovae says, even if you mean one thing, if you say a certain word, its true form goes out from you. It still has the same effect of its true meaning. And like perfect example is the word queer, which means strange and peculiar. So if someone identifies as queer, they're insulting themselves. They're self-deprecating, and that's why it's so important to use the right words because they've done experiments with water. And in Buddhism, water is like one of the material forms, one of the 8 material forms of the creator. Water, and that makes perfect sense. When you say love to a glass of water and freeze it, the crystals they will have a different form. If you express hate, it'll have a different form. It's affected by the word. Like God is participatory in our words, which is why words are so important, which is why
Well, it's the
Salgado is
juris.
such a valuable guest on my show, because words are important to him as well. And he sees the power in the words. And that's, if anything, if we could help someone to understand that, it can empower you. And it's important to teach your children to use the proper words too. So, they're not out cursing themselves. by using what's cool and what's trendy. Because trendy is what started this in the first place. They try to, create new meanings for words. Like gay. Gay means happy. It doesn't mean homosexual. It has nothing to do with homosexuality. It shouldn't be used for that. And this is another example of how Marxists changed the meanings of word to curse you, like a spell. Like abracadabra is like a spell. It's literally a spell. You don't even want to say it. But that's why we're here. We're only here because we care. We're not here to enrich or empower ourselves. We're here to enrich and empower you. So I
So
don't see Kirk anymore. I think he thinks we've left him behind. We've abandoned him. Oh, there he is. So do you think there's ever going to be remedy for Kirk? Do you see any hope in this chapter in his life?
through my lens, Kirk's story is interesting because it is incredibly like mine. Like so basically we're both speaking to a very visible corruption that's taking place. One of the traps when you experience it to the degree that both he and I do is when you try to tell your story to point to the examples, you get accused of focusing on your own self and not trying to a common issue. And this misinterpretation kills us often. So, through my lens, interpretation of Kirk's story is it's not just the fact of what he's calling out, but it's how he's been treated after that. So the fact that he observed what he perceives, and we'll call it that, although I believe he's correct, but what he perceives is a major crime, the stimulation that it had within him became so toxic that his life went off the rails and fell apart. And that's just because nobody would sit down and listen to him. And that's because something bigger is going on that's really bad, and they don't want you aware of it, and they don't want to acknowledge it. My situation, massive fraud by the world's largest nuclear power plant that's completely in bed with the WEF. All right? They lie all the fucking time through, I suggest, I won't say. My interpretation is that they lie all the time. That's how I feel. You feel however you want, but I'm going to tell you through my lens. You're a veteran and you ask for help. And in the fog and on top of the bodies of veterans that they've either terminated or watched commit suicide from neglect. And they have a license obligation every 2 years that these guards that they give a huge amount of ammunition and more than one firearm to carry in one shift and then put inside an armored vehicle. So I don't say too much on an undetermined amount of time, which I can't talk too much, but it's fairly long. And that on a shift that they have to sit there. The reason why that they're given that psychological evaluation every 2 years by a certified psychologist is to prevent something really bad from happening and to make sure that they're mentally equipped to do whatever may likely be asked of them if it pops up, what they likely may have to do. Well, they haven't done that. I worked there for almost 20 years. I did one on hire. I was highly recommended, and they never did a follow-up with me, and my life fell apart. And there was every indication of it happening. And they'd arm you up and send you back out. Completely opposite of everything that they say. Safety first and, all this other crap. It's all just fucking mantra to sound good, and that's it. In Kirk's situation, he's witnessed, from what I can understand, massive fraud take place, which has a ripple effect into his community that's seeding criminality and causing massive death. And youth losing all hope in their fucking future. Really awkward for a system that wants to build a northern sovereignty situation and continue that pipeline of money and funding to go so that they can force it into the direction they want it to go.
I know, it's terrible.
They mismanaged the situation in Kirk's case. There was a middle ground where they could have listened to his story, did what they were supposed to do in a minimum, like in a way that would have been somewhat austere and dignified, and got the same result. They didn't. They avoided it.
You know, they
Our
doubled
identities.
down.
Yeah, all right. Like you go like Chris Barber today. There was Rebel News did another release today about Chris Barber's sentencing hearing. Think what you want of the guy and all that. They're and all of them. They're all sitting through a trial now that's just like mine was. No flag. No flag. Their Bible's probably wrapped in a plastic bag too, and nothing's said about it. Our identity has been removed from your courts, and if your moral logic is removed, or what used to be the common sense of a Canadian is its emblem is removed from inside the courtroom, you're fucking in a schism. Kirk and I are examples of like you could fucking take the noble stand, say the right thing like you're supposed to do, like all the movies suggest you should have done as a child, like everybody told you should do growing up throughout your career. And the day that you stand up, you're going to end up like him, me, and Helen Grew on the pyre. So everybody can see you hang there and suffer, and they will never fucking take the stand that you did. So you're fucking slaves.
Yeah, well, I think doing the right thing actually made my life better. You know, I would have been friggin' dead if I stayed in the Range, you know, guaranteed. And, you know, not from no fault of my own, but, you know, you look it up, how many people die, like from in the Range especially, it's, or anywhere else. Like there's lots of places people are just, you know, dying and that's it. They're dead. No one gives a shit. You know, maybe their immediate family members, but
okay, so your life's turned out better. You've escaped the Range. You feel you've done better. Did you get your objective by blowing the whistle?
no, and
Are
that's,
you where
that's
you
why I'm
thought
still
you'd be
doing it,
by
you know.
blowing the whistle? No,
Pardon
you're
me?
not. I said you're not in the position that you thought you would be when you blew
No,
the
not at
whistle.
all. I thought
You're not treated like you thought you would be when you blew the whistle. So mitigating it and saying, you know what, I'm in a pretty good thought. I'm on a boat and I'm all this. I think, fuck, man, yeah, okay.
No,
But
that's
your
not the point I
objective,
was trying
you
to
didn't
make.
give a
But,
shit about, which was all the lives that you were trying to fucking protect.
yeah.
I
No,
thought.
they were trying to protect. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have a choice. Like I bet you if they looked up the amount of people in the military that have gone through like court, a lot of them are because we stood up. You know, I'd probably think more than half for sure. I would think, but you know, like look at Eric Migland. He was accused of being a far right extremist. Like, sure, he's very aggressive but he's a patriot and he loves their country. You know, he's a good guy. You know, I went to shooting school with him.
I don't
He's
know the
another
guy,
ranger
but
that.
I don't know the guy, but I can tell you there's lots of guys that I served with that were aggressive.
Yeah.
People call me aggressive, man. I'm nothing.
I like the guy, but and then there's that guy that drove through the gates of Rideau Hall, Corey Huron. I've never met the guy, but somebody called me and said they knew him personally, and he's a good guy. He just snapped him, like. But I read stuff on him. He was phoning his politicians before he did it, and they were thinking he was crazy, so they didn't respond. You know, I got like 50 politicians like that, you know, and not one of them, like even Rachel Blaney, who didn't run this last time, you know, I got like mega documents on her, and they just basically laugh at me and she was the veterans whip, you know, and that's the thing is they just change out the people into the next crew, and then you got to start all over again, you know. Like I talked about the power here in Bella Bella, which is a major pet peeve of mine. The current politician Taylor Backrach, we agreed to bury the hatchet on my military stuff if they would pursue the power stuff, and then he didn't get reelected. You know, so you got to start all over again, and that's how it is. You know, and no one in the CRA is going to deal with my tax stuff because they'll lose their jobs. No one in the RCMP is going to deal with my issues because they'll lose their jobs or get promoted. You know, so
well.
Sharon,
Look at
Sharon
Helen
is
Grew.
right. You did.
yeah, exactly.
You guys did show who these people really are and what we're really dealing with. Now, I think there's a way that we can have petition our provincial government to have a what do you call it, grand jury or something where the peoples are in charge and can actually charge
Actually,
these people.
someone's Jane sent me she's been doing some documents for me. Sorry, my throat, but yeah, it's there's a lot of things I can do. I just don't have the financial means, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. So that's the thing is, I do like some help. I don't know, it just sure there are people that tried, but I my emails hardly ever get through. It just Ramona came here to the ship. She transcribed a lot of my audio recordings, which are like bullets, like man, those recordings are good. I'm so glad I have those, you know, but they're all useless unless someone can share them. And I share them all over Facebook, and no one says they can see them. And you know, just we got to find one person.
Why don't you canvass students that are in journalism classes and things like this? Put an ad out, just simply saying if somebody wants to write your book, come up with an agreement with somebody to actually write a story about your journey. If your story could get it's a rat's nest, but
oh, I know.
It's not just one offense. There's offenses on top of offenses on top of offenses. Like if somebody could collate that story into a book, it might solve a couple of the problems. One, it'll get your story out in a way
that
collated, and then the other part is it's going to generate some revenue in order for you to finance next steps.
But then it's like, I don't know if I have all the I guess I don't have to have all the evidence. It just that's the thing is like if I'm sure they have all the evidence they need about my stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I got to do it. I know. It just hope this summer's the summer, right? Paul's gonna come up.
You had Ramona there doing your book. Was she not doing your book for you?
No, she was transcribing my documents.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we didn't do our book, but I wish I did. Like she would have happily, but it just wasn't the time for me.
Is there an email address where people can donate, e-transfer you money?
It can just by email. It's kirkriese@outlook.com. But
okay.
Yeah, like I had a GoFundMe, but like I said, it doesn't even show up when you look it up, and I have it. It's just funny stuff like that.
I've spent $70,000 in the last year on a lawyer.
Yeah, and that's what everyone's doing is they're funding all these lawyers instead of if they got a lawyer for me, it would be ended, and they wouldn't have needed to, you know.
Yeah, that's what they all say, dude. Trust me. Oh yeah, every lawyer that you speak to, if you would have hired me in the beginning, get me on board, and then you're on there, and it's motion after reopening, after application, and you're paying piecemeal, right? You're paying them one by one by one by one.
I know. I went through custody.
Like 500 to 750 for a medium one per hour, and you know. I haven't been asking anybody for money. I didn't take the approach that a lot of people took on my situation. I just shared information because the way that I feel about it is that give to Rome what belongs to Rome and all of that. So it's knowledge. If anybody wanted to do anything to support my matter, all I ask, and anybody can do it from wherever you are, the closest courthouse, take one day, attend, note the search going in, do it. Get into the courtroom, sit on the observer side. The second the court opens and the record opens, politely stand up with your hand up and ask, why is the flag not in the position of honor in the court? Which is, as you look at the judge, should be behind his right shoulder standing erect. Like the left, as you look at it, to the left. His right as he sits, your left as you look. That's the pole position. It's not there. And the policy on communications and federal identity defines capacity. The policy on communications and federal identity shows where the Treasury Board ordered the courts to remove the flag symbol and leave only the quote unquote corporate shield in its place. So it's bound under equity alone. They stopped convoy and all of that over equity. Every single Christie of Freeland was equity of the nation. Windsor Bridge was all about equity. They didn't care about your message. Your inherent rights didn't matter. They weren't inherent. They didn't exist. There's no such thing as fucking inherent rights. Equity mattered more. And they policed it with force. And they prosecuted it through show trials with fucking zeal. And they removed every single emblem of everything about your identity while they set elbows up in Canada first and buy Canadian. Being Canadian is respecting your capacity and choice in a matter. Again, you guys can argue with me about, people will say that I'm a nutcase because when I'm talking about common law and all this, get the free man land out of the shit out of your mouth. Don't even say that term. It's a trap too. And the person who invented it is as well. All right. It is the Common Law Interpretation Act of Canada, Section 8.1. Look it up. The common law and civil process have equal authority and property rights in Canada. And if Ontario's laws are written under the Canadian law, then it's under it. And Canada is under the international covenants. And all of it's underneath the supremacy of God.
Right.
The creator of your firmament matrix and the box that you fucking stand in, the black cube you fucking sit in. All right. The period was the creation of vowels and words, and they'll be used against you because they express your will.
Yeah, there's lots
I
of,
know you're not asking for money, but do you have e-transfer email, Selgovae?
No, I don't take money. I ask people to simply make an independent step in faith. I don't want your money. I want your fucking patriotism. I just want you to walk into a courtroom and say, please, where's the flag and why isn't it in a position of honor? Look up the citations that I mentioned, Policy on Communications and Federal Identity, National Flag Act 2012. And when you read the National Flag Act of 2012, note that it says in accordance with the rules, and that they're very brief. You look those rules up and it'll tell you exactly how flags are to be demonstrated and why. When I was a soldier and I served over in a foreign country, our camp flew a Canadian flag because everything underneath that flag on the dirt was under its ideals. It was an emblem in a position that flew, that showed everybody that this rule is under this, on this dirt in this spot. We're not underneath your chaotic bullshit outside the wire.
Well,
and the same thing goes here.
My flag is supposed to be on this side, but my camera somehow, I don't know why StreamYard does that sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Sharon says, what's the solution, please? Well, in my opinion, it's sharing the stories. Like, just share. The more people that share it once, they're not going to be able to put it away. You know, that's the thing. Like, we need to have it snowball, the truth snowball, all these whistleblower stories, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, like Luke Sabron, he was going up there and, you know, just too much for a lot of people. But, you know, a lot of people said they were going to take my story, but they never call me. It's just press and share.
You have to petition whatever province you're in, because they can set up a grand jury where it is the people that will, you know, it would be like a court de jour where, you know, the people will be able to prosecute. And God, I would love to do that.
Here, I'm just reading something on X here. It's from Aaron Gunn. It's official. I've sworn my oath, and I'm now a member of Parliament for North Island Powell River. That's where Rachel Blaney was. I can't wait to get to work for incredible people of this riding and our country. I won't let you down. Well, will he share my story? That's all he would have to do, you know?
Yep.
We'll see. Share my stuff with him. That's how you can do it. Share with Aaron Gunn at Aaron Gunn. Capital A, small a, RON, capital GUNN. You know, he's military. He does documentary on military. He did one with Rangers involved, you know. Mm-hmm. But I've been trying for 2 years to get in contact with him. You know, it's just, I can't, no one responds. But I respond to all calls, you know.
Everything you tell people, Kirk, you go tell people, go tell my story. It doesn't do a fucking thing.
I know. Yeah.
Well, the reason why it doesn't do a fucking thing is because when it gets inside a court, there's nothing to bind them to your inherent rights. Exactly. They're worried about equity. Your situation directly affects the equity of a nation.
Yep.
Northern sovereignty and how they're going to keep the money flowing back and forth as they have been and keep everybody from being upset that have gotten embedded in their situations of collecting it.
Yep, exactly.
Fucked ups become normal, dude. So it's it's all about that. It's all about us taking, again, the minefield. When you're in a minefield, the worst thing you can do is run forward into the unknown, willy-nilly and crazy. You're going to lose a limb for sure. Somebody's going to die unnecessarily. You got to take the same steps back that you took in to a point of known ground where you know it's safe. And you reorg, remuster, and then figure out what your next bound is from there. We're in a situation we've run deep. We've run deep from 2015, from when they put searches at the front of the court and start stripping our rights away, changing legislation, got out, fucking removing that. You got Doug Ford calling everybody yahoos and getting away with it.
Yeah.
You know, all of this. The Bibles in plastic bags, smothered. Flags taken out, reversed. There's no standard. There's no uniform. Every courtroom looks different. Every situation. But once people start recognizing and calling for that uniformity to come back and all it represents in the theater of representation on their own. Okay? I'm not going to drop names. There's characters out there asking for, oh, we just had another situation where my certies jumped out. I want to stay out of jail. Give me more money. I need your help. Send more money. Here, my lawyers are going to talk to you. Let's get some more money. These people are raising $5,000 in one show. It's insane. Yeah. And people feel like they're helping by throwing money at these characters. You're not. You're not. Frankie, there's a British mobster that named Frankie Fraser, Canadian guy too, actually, and native. He's half native. During World War II, when he was young, he did quite well during the war in his skullduggery. He was from an unfortunate class of people, and so he did what he had to do to survive. Anyway, my point coming to this, he said in his old age, when he goes, I could never forget Hitler for stopping World War II. I made so much money. And so in this, once you realize that, you begin to think that maybe some of these characters are perpetuating this because they become professional in what they're doing. All right? They're making money off of this all the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And crazy-ass precedents are being set in the court, and proper things aren't being challenged. The theater, the stage, the battlefield has to be familiar to us. And it's not. They've taken all the things that have symbolic meaning in the theater of representation. They've removed it. And with that, they consider equity before your inherent rights.
Yeah, and they're not teaching in school either. So they're not empowered when they graduate at all.
No.
They know very little.
No.
You're not allowed to cure disease. You're not allowed to invent cars that run on water. There's so many things that could have created a renaissance in Canada and the world, and they just weren't allowed. They say that the oil is from fossil fuel. It's not. Saudi Arabia moves. Once they empty a pocket of oil, they move the pump, and then they come back to that same area. It refills itself. So, they've lied about everything. Salt. They lied about salt.
You think it would have been cheaper to keep the Niagara Falls generator running than build a nuclear plant?
Yeah, we just sell
perpetual
it?
Motion.
Yeah.
You have perpetual, endless motion. That water falls off, that falls 365, 200 fucking 24 hours a day.
It froze once.
Okay.
Free energy. They won't allow it.
But yeah, they mothballed that. They mothballed that whole concept. I get it doesn't sustain everything, but
I think we're living in a time where the truth is coming out and they can't stop it. So that's why they're becoming militant, silencing people.
I get more calls in the last couple of weeks. Thank goodness for the ostriches, because I posted my stuff on there, and then I got a lot of people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But if I didn't do that, they would have no clue. And that's the thing is, there's lots of stories like that. Either way, I'm gonna have to call her tonight. But
all right, brother.
Take care.
I'm sorry we couldn't do the documents because my computer wouldn't work for some reason. But we'll get her. Thanks again.
We're not going to give up. We'll probably do another show in the future. I mean, the Truth Table is shutting down, and more financial reason, but also because I have said everything I personally wanted to say, and that includes the Bible verse that is retranslating, because to me that's important. I found a goddess. I thought that was amazing. Because it was hidden. So things like that that
Mother
I feel
Goddess.
compelled to share, I have done that. So I have completed what I set out to do with this show, and I've had the most amazing guests. Brave people like Kirk, Sarah Kajunian, nurses, that fought back, and some that were injured because they did what they were told, and now they're, Sarah. She's like on a not Sarah. Oh my God, I forgot her name. Sorry, but she's has heart issues, and she's dying because of doing what she said, and they're just dismissing it. So we're dealing with a lot of crimes going on, crimes against humanity, and it just seems like it's in the days of Noah. I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's just this is the hard part. This is the birthing pains that we're going through. But
You
all
know
these
that
things,
also,
the flag, the position of the flag in the courtroom does matter. It really, really does. It might just be overlooked, but don't overlook it. These are valuable things that you can address when you get to the court. Where's the flag? Why isn't the flag here?
and so like Kirk mentioned the ostrich farm, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but I find
Yeah.
it's being, again, everything that the fate of those birds is being determined in a court.
Yeah.
It's not being determined on their property.
Yeah.
Those goons showing up every day to go do walkarounds and do their bylaw recons. They're looking for bylaw infractions that they can then come in and enforce afterwards. Or things they can invent. So you're just in a timeline dance right now. You're not gonna win sitting there and doing it like that. I don't think. Maybe you will, but I don't understand how people get so distracted by standing around there when they could just go to the courthouse that's doing the rulings on this stuff.
Thank you for coming.
Or not
today.
all, some send a cadre of like a cell of 5 individuals to the court to sit down and stand up and say, hey, where's the flag in here?
Yeah.
It's okay to fight to fight what's directly in front of you, but you have to have some depth to your concepts. Like, you're not going to convince a police officer to argue with a judge. So the cop standing there is going in the direction that they intend to go. There's no reverse. All right. When they come to do it, they're coming to do it. And there ain't all the crying and pleading and bubbles ain't going to fucking stop a thing. Because the boss told them to. Well, so that means that your problem is sitting in the office that's telling them to do something.
Yeah.
And does that office have the proper elements in it that is binding the decisions that are in it in the proper forum? And they're getting creative about how they're moving it around and doing it right now. So you have to be vigilant and argue about that.
Yep.
Because it creates a delay. It's a legitimate argument. We want a flag in here for every hearing about the ostrich farm in the position of honor binding the judge. And they're not going to do it because the Treasury Board told them not to do it. So now you have a situation where you're having an argument that's going to stall everything behind it until that argument's determined. That's time, which is what they're trying to buy, and it's effective targeting of how to get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want to take any motivation from anybody wanting to stand there and camp out and do that. That's good. That presence is, it's necessary, but they need to understand you don't have to pay lawyers. You don't need last minute things like this. All it takes is crews of people to walk in and start demanding that everywhere. We could force an election. We could push an election on this identity matter. If we get it out of the mouths of the right-leaning people who are probably the most likely the ones that will pick this up, I suggest, will be the right side of politics.
What about the stamp of the province emblem? The provincial.
What about
emblem?
The stamp of the provincial shield? So the provincial law is under our federal law. So when you look at our federal law in Canada and its rights, inherent rights, and are attached to the Westminster Statute, which has the clause which says freedom of association is a symbol of the crown for all its members and nation states. Kirk v. King, 1937. I believe is the citation. So in that statement, what it means is members and member states, you as a Canadian can identify in a capacity before the state when it walks up to you. What do I mean? Section 7 of the Charter, everyone is one word. Everyone has right to life, liberty, and security of the person. So there's two entities that are mentioned in Section 7 that they don't tell you about. Everyone is one word, and that's a collection of individuals. Individuals are human beings who have human rights. They have individual rights. The person is in a collective association. So the criminal code would say every space one who commits without lawful excuse. They don't say without legal excuse. So we have a capacity and dimension that they're identifying that's above and beyond legal, which is lawful, and you're not a digit in a matter if you don't want to be considered as such. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to both positions, and in Canada, what makes it a good free nation is when we participate in good faith, it is good for the collective, and when we deny the system something, when they're doing overreach, summarily, we prevent the system from getting bad. Well, we have okay so many times and getting played by the media. So what will prevent people from going into court and saying, hey, we want the flag back there, we want our inherent rights back? Well, right now they're saying crime's unhinged, we need bail reform and on. They have you believing all this other stuff's gonna, and by asking for your inherent right recognition, it will take teeth out of the jaws of justice, which is absolutely not true. They're devouring the fucking weakest people they can, and that's the ones who listen the most.
Yeah. All the people in their cars alone with masks on, they've all been completely usurped.
They still got their jobs. They didn't lose any money or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't want anybody's money yet. I'm not. I've been fighting hard, and I've been resisting the temptation to try to monetize my situation I have.
Well, I just want your email. What's your email? Wait, just
I don't want money from people.
Okay, you're not asking for money. It's just I just want to get it out there. What your email
find
is.
Me under this name on Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook's a platform. I have two platforms: my email account and Facebook. I'm not digital in any other way. I don't bank digital. I don't do any of that. So I stopped all of that at the beginning of COVID because, again, you got to stop participating in all ways in order to show the system you don't agree with it.
Yeah.
If you have a 15-year-old child that's running around with a bank card just tapping for coffee every day, they don't need that. That bank fee and all the associated fees that come with that card, take that from the bank. Put it back in your child's hand. Teach them to play with cash. You only need $20 to go out today for your lunch and for your coffee, for example.
Yep.
When you run out, you run out. You don't get to tap. You don't get to go into overdraft. And if everybody did that across the nation, if you say there's 10 million children under 15 in Canada, grand total, that's a lot of fucking money. That's a lot of money. They feel that. I did an experiment between 2020 and 2022. I stopped paying property tax on my property. Instead, I took the money and I bought silver. And boy, was I ever glad I did that. Because at the end of that 2-year period, when I started feeling nervous, I cashed it in. I paid off my property tax, and I got a nice dividend for living on my land. All right.
MC talking about masks. Your chemo, your immune is low, and your lungs are sensitive. Actually, a mask will inhibit oxygen, clean oxygen. The mask particle is 1/1000th of the size of a hole in a mask, so it really doesn't prevent anything. I would go right pure oxygen if you do have lung problems. I wouldn't breathe the air out there because they're spraying God knows what on us.
Here's an indication of how much of a lie this mask stuff was. I worked in the nuclear industry, work in confined spaces. They pay a guy $55 plus an hour to sit at the hole with a plastic tube, and that's all he does is hold a machine and like this. And the second that air quality gets down below 19% or 19 parts, we have to evacuate the hole like it's a major emergency. If you put on a mask and take that same monitor and put it underneath the mask, within 30 seconds, it alarms.
Yeah.
And get this, every single employee at that nuclear, 5,000 plus employees at the nuclear power plant, all must take a respirator computer-based training program every year, I think it is. And then every couple of years, they have to do an in class, which specifically determines which respirator for what conditions, because of particulate, like your viewer suggested. They already know. They all knew from the start this was nonsense.
Yeah.
Just doing your jobs.
Cold air burns. My God, what would cause that?
Pardon me? Cold air burns? So that's like frostbite. So when the skin gets all the moisture inside your skin gets frozen out, and the skin sort of dehydrates and dies, and I think that's what they're referring to.
I think he's been hurt. I don't know, MC, if the towel guy, it could be job related. If you're breathing in a lot of dust, and even if you wear a mask, it may not actually stop the dust from getting into your lungs. So it could be a work related. I mean, I don't know you, so I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I mean, I can only speculate. I mean, I hate to see anyone suffering, and you know, I think wearing a mask is more mental comfort, emotional comfort. I think it's just feeling like you're protecting yourself. The mind is so powerful that you can actually make changes just by, the power of your mind, the power of your thought, the power of your prayer. So I'm sorry to hear that. I don't like to see anybody suffering. And Selgovae is the same. I mean, he wouldn't even be doing this if he didn't care. I mean, honestly, he has better things to do. And the fact that he's here means he cares. All my guests, they all do care. These nurses, the doctors, the police officers, they all care. They wouldn't be here, And I hope this show has empowered you to know about what to look for in the courtroom, the power of words. You have Kirk's email if you want to help him. I mean, you're welcome to help him. Also, you can find Selgovae on Facebook. You befriend him and follow his story and talk to him if you like him. He has a lot of answers that could help a lot of people. Empower your walk in this crazy world we're living in. But thank you, Selgovae, for coming on the show again. And
yeah, bro,
you may come again. It's quite
I hope
possible.
So.
I don't like even saying that the show is going to end, but it is kind of ending. I'm not going to ask for money, and that's one reason it's going to end, because I'm just not going to pay over $400, for subscription. It's just not worth it for me. I don't have the money, but I do believe that mission is complete. I have said everything I had to say, even my Bible translation, everything that was really compelling to me, I did get out, and it's there. It's all on my Patreon. You can follow me there, patreon.com, Paul Everton, capital P, capital E, and archive it, download it, Selgovae's podcast with me. It's all there. Jesse Hall, yeah, they went right to his house. So I mean, I know the truth is the first victim of a totalitarian government. And
what happened?
They went to his house. They threatened him.
Who's they?
I don't know. Government people.
Really?
Every time I leave my house, I look over my shoulder now. I mean, it's been like that since the Truth Table started, because I knew that eventually, if I got popular enough, they would come after me and shut me right up. So they haven't done that yet. I have been hacked though, and I have been contacted by some people, but they didn't come to my house or threaten me. They just said they won't kill me, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you for not killing me. You imagine that, eh? They told me, don't worry, there's no plan to kill you. So super, super duper. Have a great day. Thank you.
So
So
just
I have
because you say that now, you've done your due diligence to remove a death threat from the situation. Is that what they felt?
yeah,
That's funny.
they just told me, "Don't worry, we're not planning on killing you." So it was kind of a
Hey, if you
threat.
say so.
I think it's a threat to like we can kill you. I think that was the message, indirect messaging. But yeah, Jesse, he shut down everything. All his content. My God, over 1,000 videos, and great content, great guests. What a sad story that is. Um, but he was afraid for his mother's life, and yeah, they were intimidating me. Definitely, I'm saying things that the church doesn't like. The Vatican does not like me, I'm sure, but I'm not. My reach isn't big enough for them to consider me a threat. They did like kind of indirectly threaten me, but it was more on the military. It was more the powers that be, like the Zionists, the Rothschilds, who saying, we don't like what you're saying, but we're not planning on killing you just as yet. Because I know when you find out the truth, you know that it's dangerous. Like Vatican is Latin. It comes from a Latin word. It's not English. It's not an English translation. Vatican is not it just sounds like Vatican. It's two words. Vatis, divining, and can, serpent. The divining serpent is the real English translation of Vatican. So I mean that's quite telling in itself. But that's what I'm all about. I'm all about
Well,
word
so yeah,
translation.
remember this though, like possession of symbols and representation and rebranding of them.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a big
So the
issue too.
pride rainbow,
Yep.
the swastika, all of
Yep.
these symbols that had some kind of meaning, they've taken it, they've
Yep.
rebranded it, and they've infected the consciousness going forward to remove it. Therefore, you're lost.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you start talking about like divining serpent in the Vatican, is like I agree, the Vatican has done a bunch of nasty stuff under
Oh yeah.
a possessed symbolism. One of the
Yep. The
things about
Inquisition.
this existence is good is without definition unless you're aware that evil is present. And
Yes.
evil is the same way. It is without definition unless you know that there's good present.
Yep.
Balance
Yep.
in this dimension is your moral struggle from every decision you make, moment to moment, is about that balance. Am I with a collective or am I standing on my own on this one? Is it worth standing on my own on this one? Christ made that decision, the man we call Christ.
Yep.
Right?
But I would advise everyone to find Selgovae, write his name down because it's not easy to remember the spelling.
It's a
But
tribe.
also me, friend me on Facebook. Most of my stuff is archived as well on Facebook for temporarily, but you can find a lot of my information and all my guests. Uh, they're there for a reason. They're there to expose certain things in certain departments, and they're there for you. They're not there for me. And thank you all for joining me and Selgovae and Kirk tonight on the second last show. Not for sure second last show, but it could be the second last show. But thank you all for joining us and for participating, for commenting. It means a lot to all of us, that you're here and that you care. And I wish you all the best. Tomorrow we're going to be watching the throne speech that we've never had before. But have a great night, a great Sunday. Thank you for coming to the Truth Table.